Hi everyone, welcome back to the Midwest Stitches YouTube channel. My name is Danielle and this is my channel where I talk all about my crafting adventures. Today is Tuesday, December 3rd, and today we have a couple of finished objects, a few works in progress, and I don't know, just some thoughts about next year. I know we're still in the beginning of December, but I have some thoughts on 2025 and kind of my plans or goals or just some things I want to focus on that I want to share with you. So let's get started. You can find me on Instagram at midwest.stitches, and you can find all of my projects on Ravelry that are knitting and crochet at Midwest Stitches. Why don't we jump on in with finished objects. My first finished object is my pair of socks from the last time that I showed you was almost finished, are the Suki's Wedding Day socks. This yarn is from Stitchin' with Yarn. And I think, which one did I have done last time? I think I had the blue one done last time. So I'll show each. So this one with the kind of purpley mauve mini. That was one mini with the set, and then this blue one. So for my socks, if you're new here, I use 2mm needles. I cast on 64 stitches, and for this shorty recipe that I normally do, it's 8 rounds for the cuff, 4 or 5 rounds for the leg, and then heel, flap, and gusset. And then I just use a sock ruler and knit to the length for my foot or whoever the recipient is. But these short socks are usually for me unless I say they're for a gift. So there's those. Happy to have those done. And that was my one entry for the hashtag Knit People Knit Cal, hosted by Leah Loves to Knit on Instagram. And she's done that. I think this is the 3rd year that she's done that. So there will obviously be one for next year, and I have 2 more sock sets to get through, and I'm hoping next year I'll actually knit the rest of them in that time frame, because she does it from September to the end of November. So hopefully next year I will have a better year. You know, I won't be running the shop or anything like that, so I will obviously have a lot more time to focus on things like that, which I'm super excited about. Okay, so let's move on to the next pair, which these were not a work in progress the last time. I don't think. I'm pretty sure these weren't. So these socks are pretty deep stash. This is, oh, I don't have the tag. This sock set was a 50-gram sock set, and it's getting kind of blown out because I have a ring light. Side note, I'm set up in a different spot. This little area is where I'm kind of revamping it right now. This is where my sewing machines, and I had a cabinet on the side. My sewing machines were over, like, main one was over here. I had another one over here. I used to record the other way around where I was facing the windows. And now I have a couch here that I bought. I splurged a little and got this super comfy couch, you know, to kind of have as like my cozy craft corner kind of thing. I still have my sewing machines and everything. I'm moving things around. So I have a ring light, but I don't really love it. I don't love using it because it just kind of like gets in the way, but so the colors are not showing accurate. At least I don't think they are from what I can see. So anyway, this is Peppermint Bark, a Peppermint Bark sock set from a yarn to Die For Designs. And so this one had less speckles than this. This was the first one. See, it had so much more red speckling, which I just thought was super funny. So if you look at them, they don't even look like they're from the same sock set. So this sock set I got, I want to say 2 to 3 years ago, and I've just had it caked up and waiting. So I'm trying to pull from like a deep stash, you know, like one, I think I said this last time, one from deep stash, and then the next one will be like a newer yarn. But I'm still definitely trying to pull from yarn that is already caked up because I have quite a bit of that. So I'm trying to work through that first before I really cake up any more yarn, or at least a ton. These are done. Same recipe as the previous socks, and these are actually a gift. I won't say who they're for, but I decided after almost being done with the first sock that I wanted them to be a gift, so they're going to be a gift. So there's them. And that's all I have for sock finished objects. So next I wanted to show you my latest flowers and kind of talk about my blankets for a bit. So the first flower is for my fingering weight blanket, and this is another yarn from Stitchin' with Yarn that I knit up. I have 2 more colors for this kind of set, if you will, this Halloween set I'm working on. So there's that. And for this fingering weight blanket, I am using a 2.5mm crochet hook. I don't think I've ever said that. It's on the page. It's on the page on Ravelry. It has all the details. I have links for the tutorials that I use to create the flowers, to join them. There are 2 different ones. I will say the one for creating the petals to create the hexagons, it's actually one where you change colors every round. So the way I do it is a little bit different. I do plan on doing a tutorial for how I make the solid colored ones with those instructions. Maybe for anyone who isn't a super experienced crocheter, or you're like me and you need a visual on how to do that, because sometimes it can be confusing because everybody does it a little different. If you're going around in a circle, for these ones, I flip back and forth. That's a tip I got from a YouTube channel called Play Hooky with Me. Roz is the owner of that. She's a great teacher. That's where I learn a lot of different techniques. It's from her. I love her teaching style. So go check her out if you've never seen her channel. But for example, she turns the work like on granny squares or any kind of shapes. She turns them every round instead of continuously going in the round, because it keeps it from skewing to one side and kind of having your shapes being kind of wonky. It makes it so the sides are straight and you really don't have to block the objects unless you want to. They already are the shape that you want them to be without having any kind of, any misshapen form, if you will. So I do that. But for example, when you're using the one tutorial, it has you, like, you do the first round and you fasten off the color and then you just kind of join wherever, where I'm doing a continuous color. And so when I'm starting a new round with the same color, for example, I chain 3, but some tutorials, they only have you chain 2 or whatever. So I'm going to film a tutorial soon kind of showing that, so it's out there and I can reference that for anyone who's kind of wanting to do the same thing, because you can do this shape in any yarn size, hook size, whatever you feel comfortable with, if it gives you the size and shape that you like. And you can, if you're using one color, you can just keep going. Like I can make this, I can use the same instructions and make the hexagon as big as I want. So that's kind of nice to have in your back pocket. So there's that one. That's kind of a long-winded way of saying that flower is done and ready to add to the stack of finished flowers. So my next one is for my DK flower blanket. And here it is. I think I showed this the last time and it was kind of done. So this is a Christmas yarn from Daisy Stitch Co. called Cozy Christmas, I think. I made socks with it, but I can now add that to my flower blanket. And I will show my progress on that here in a minute and kind of talk about my plans going forward for that, because I did some evaluation on my longer term whips. Okay, so my next finished object is this dishcloth. So this is the knit shaker dishcloth pattern from Very Pink Knits. I had to think about what that was called. From Very Pink Knits. And I did the version with the picot edge. And I know I raved about how I thought that was so cute and I couldn't wait to do it, and I couldn't wait to do it, and I did, and I will not be doing the picot edge again. I think I said last time, if you watch that video, that going through the segments, I have to continually look at the pattern, because I kept it, and when I was finishing this up, I had 2 maybe 3 segments in a row where I kept screwing up the counts. Even though I was looking at the pattern, I kept screwing up the counts. And so I think I have one of them on here. Oh, I do. To show you, hopefully you can see it. I don't know how well it's going to show up. But right here, there is a huge gap right there. That is where I messed up one of the counts for the segments. And I realized it too late and I didn't want to frog it or go back. So I just went on with my day and continued on, and there'll just be a big hole in the thing. I will say I do like this knit version because you can carry the yarns. You carry the yarns through the middle because the floats are so short. I just crossed them over each other when I was picking up the other color. And then in the end, you just take a piece of yarn, and I just used a really long tail that I had left. And you just, she shows you in the video how to do it, but you just weave it through the middle, close it up, pull it, and it closes up the hole that's there. And then you just weave it in on the back side. And you do Kitchener, or you're supposed to. You're supposed to Kitchener the segments together. Well, here's where I did mine. This one right here. I did not Kitchener. I did the Finchley graft, and it looks okay, but I'm not super happy with that. And I was trying to figure out a way to Finchley graft it to the other side, but my needles were the wrong way, or I needed to do something to be able to do that. I think I needed another row that she didn't call for to be able to turn it inside out and do that, but we'll see. So for this one, I used my signature needles, which are a 3.5 millimeter straights, and that worked great, but I'm not really, let's see, which was the right side. So I'm not really a fan of, if you can see, yeah, see, this is the last like section of each row, and it's really prominent on the white. I don't know how well you're gonna see that. It's a little too bright with the ring light, but it's kind of gappy, and I don't know if that is my needle size, the pattern, or my tension. I'm not really sure because some of the red ones look okay, so I don't know if it's maybe the white yarn. It just shows a little bit more, and everybody's looks like that. So I'm not super happy with the way this turned out. I'm hoping washing it will kind of shrink that down because this is 100% cotton. So we'll see. I'll report back, and it may not matter at all. Washing and drying it might close up any of those holes, and it will look just fine. So, but my next one, I'm going to make another one, a knitted version, but I'm going to go down a needle size. I think, let me see. I don't have straights for this, so I'm just going to use 2 DPM, and I'm going to try a 3.25. So just a slightly smaller needle size. I'm hoping might help with that, and it might not even matter. I don't really know. Oh, and I also am going to try the crochet version again, the Tunisian crochet version. I had started to make one, and I was using, because my other ones that I showed, I used a 5 millimeter crochet hook because that is a thicker cotton yarn, more of a true worsted. And this is more of a DK to me. It's a lot thinner. So originally I was using my interchangeable Lantern Moon set, and I was using a 4 millimeter, but the Tunisian crochet, I did one segment, and it was very tight, like very dense. And I want more of some more drape to it. So like this one, you can see it's very drapey and I like that. So what I did was, and I got this in the mail today, they don't have a 4.5 millimeter, or at least that I could find, interchangeable head for the Tunisian crochet set. So what I found was this just regular crochet hook from Lantern Moon in a 4.5 millimeter, and it's pretty long, and this is perfect for this pattern. She tells you that in the video, is that you can use just a regular crochet hook as long as it's straight and there's no kind of like bulging handle or super tapered. You know, it has to be straight because you're doing Tunisian crochet. And this one only has, I don't know how well it's going to show, but it's got like a little bit of a dip here for your thumb. So I'm going to try this out. This was only like 10 bucks. I found it on Amazon, and I think it was a yarn store that was selling it. But I'm going to try that out and see if that still gives me a good looking dishcloth, but it gives me a more drapey feel because, like I said, that fabric for the Tunisian crochet version with the 4mm, it was so dense, like crazy dense. Like it almost didn't have like any like flex to it, if you will, at all. It was pretty crazy. So I was like, nope, that's not going to work. And I only had a choice between a 4mm and a 5mm. There was nothing in between in that set. So I will let you know. Maybe I'll have one made up by the next time. I will say, for me, the Tunisian crochet ones go so much quicker than the knit ones. I don't know why. I don't know why the knit ones weren't going. I think it was the picot edge. I'm going to do both and see if there's really a difference in like how quickly they work up. I think it was the picot edge, honestly. It was tripping me up and keeping me from going as quickly as I would like, because the pattern without the picot edge, it's basically you cast on, or provisionally cast on this many, pick up this many stitches, knit this many, turn, knit this many back, etc., etc. Like you just go back and forth, making just plain short rows, no wrap and turns, none of that stuff. So I feel like it would be a lot faster if I had done that. So looking forward to starting that. But I have so many projects going right now. This is kind of not really how I normally am. If you guys are longtime viewers, you know that having a lot of projects stresses me out. I have like decision paralysis where I don't know which one to pick. So anyway, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So we'll move on to works in progress. I have quite a few to show you, like I just said, because December has started, Advent has started. I've pulled out the Christmas yarns to make socks with. So we'll start with the first pair of socks that I've started. I finished one. So for this pair, I pulled out some really deep stash, like, oh my gosh. So this is Yarnable Ribbon Candy colorway, and this is the Yarnable from December 2020. So I got this was my very first Yarnable colorway when I first subscribed to the box the first time around. This was the first color I got, and it was actually the first, like, I think yarn mail that I got when we moved to this house, because we moved here in October of 2020. So for this one, I have completed one. And here's the cake of yarn. So we'll talk about this for a second. So here's the cake of yarn. Yeah, there you go. And you can see it's got some reds and greens, and it doesn't really show, it's hard to pick it up, but it's got a slight pink hue on the white. So there's a little bit of coloring there. It's not just a plain cream or white. But I started knitting this and I'm like, it's all green. I got like no red. I got like 3 speckles of red on this. I was really disappointed. So these are also a gift. And if you'll notice, it's hard to tell, but I did a different heel for this. I just tried it out. This is the strong heel. So this is basically the Flegel heel, but cuff down. It's literally the exact same thing. You're just working a cuff down instead of toe up. They just have 2 different names. The Flegel heel, you just have to know like a measurement for the foot a little bit, because you're supposed to start the increases when I think the sock hits the back of the arch, I believe. So like towards your heel, and that's when you would start the increases, and then you're basically just doing increases and then a giant heel turn. Well, it's the same thing for the strong heel. It's just you're doing that in reverse. You're knitting your cuff, doing your increases, doing a heel turn, and then you get a gusset. And for this one, I used counts from the, it was by So Sweet Violet. I think it was a vanilla sock pattern, but it has what she calls the Godet heel, Godet, but it's a strong heel. It's a Flegel heel. It's the same thing. Her counts are just different. So basically the only difference is she has more stitches in the middle when you start the heel turn. That's pretty much the only difference. So for this one, I changed it a little from her pattern. So I increased to 56 stitches before I started doing the heel turn to give a wider heel, wider heel turn, and less room in the gusset, because you have less stitches. So let me see if I can show this. It's kind of hard to show because it's been on the blocker. And this yarn is not the best to show that, but see if you can tell. Oh, maybe not. Here's the heel turn. It's pretty wide. It's right there. So it's about an inch or so. Traditionally with like the Flegel heel or the, strong heel, if you look it up online, some people, you do your heel turn exactly like you would do on a cuff down heel. Like the counts in the middle, and then you would just keep on decreasing. So I just did it a little bit different, and I do have the second one started. I'm working on the increases right now. And for my increases, you can't see it on here, so I'm not even going to bother to show it because it's too light with the light, and it's just too bright. I'm actually doing a knit front back. You can do make ones, you can do yarn overs, any increase that you like. So I decided to do the knit front back, and I actually really like the way that it looks. It gives those purl bumps. So I think it just adds kind of a decorative finish to the increases, but you can't really see it on this anyway. You couldn't see it on this one just because the yarn's so light. I think if the yarn were more variegated and had darker and lighter colors mixed together, you could see it a lot better. There's those. I'm hoping to finish those really quick because I'm really not happy working on them. I will be honest. I'm kind of disappointed with the yarn, and there's just so much green, and I was really hoping for more of a better mix of the green and the red, to have more of that Christmas, but it's fine. I'm working with stash, and that's bound to happen. But I am happy that it matches this bag, at least the cake of yarn does, so perfectly. I love this bag. We say this all the time around our house, these quotes from Christmas Vacation. It's just kind of our thing. I will show you another pair of socks that I started. It's in this bag, this vintage Christmas bag. That's what I called it in my shop. Vintage Santa. I have one started right now, but these are socks for my grandpa. And so far I have the cuff done and a little bit of the leg. He likes a really long sock, and I think he wears a size 11 shoe. So it takes me a while to make his. But I have the cakes, I have it split to make sure that I get an even pair. And if I run out before I hit the toe, I will just grab a scrap or another skein of yarn that matches. And the yarn is Cascade Heritage Sock. And I think the color is moss. Let me see if the tag says. I don't know if it does. Oh, it does. Yeah, so it's called moss. Color 5. No, that's not it. I can't tell. The tag is covering it up. The price tag from the yarn shop. I got that from a yarn shop in Tennessee. Okay, I'm going to show you my Advent socks. So I'm not going to show the cake of yarn. I am doing the Freckled Whimsy 2024 Advent skein. My friend Lauren from Granite State Yarns, she was so kind and sent me her, like, 1/2 of her 100 grams because they come in 250-gram cakes. So she offered to send me the other half because I'd missed out on buying it. So I'm knitting socks with it for myself, of course. And spoiler alert, all of the socks are different. None of them start in the same place. So you might not have the same amount of colors done as I do, but I'm way ahead. I'm on like day 8 technically. But again, day 8 is different for everyone. So I have way more stripes than somebody else might have on day 3. I'm definitely more than 3 stripes in. So, spoiler alert, here are my socks. So here's what I have done so far. And for these ones, I actually did a contrast heel turn. You can't see this yarn because it's a light speckly pink color, but there you go. And for that, I'm using leftovers of this. Oh, you can't see that either. Oh, this is just not a good setup. My apologies. This is why people film in front of natural light. If you're ever wondering why people always film in front of windows, this is why, because lighting setups are terrible. And probably why I won't do this again. This is Granite State Yarns, Is It Cake? This was her yarn of the month from August, I think. So I thought it went well with the colors when I wound it up. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to pop that in for the heel. And normally, if you've been around, again, you know I don't do contrast heels because I hate having to weave in those extra ends. I usually only do toes, and it's mostly because I'm lazy. I just want to knit the sock, and then when I get to the toe, if I feel like doing a contrast toe, if it's a sock set or something, then that's when I will put the alternating color in. Most of the time I don't do this, but I'm not going to do a contrast toe on these. I'm just going to knit with the stripes all the way through. So there's those so far. Those are my Advent socks. And my other Advent project is my Scrappy Advent project. So far for my Scrappy project, here's 2 of my bags. I've only opened 2 days. I haven't even opened day 3 yet. So I started out with a crochet project. And here's what I did. And I'm really sad that I'm not going to go through with this project. So here's what I had so far. These are little teeny tiny crochet granny squares. So I was going for a project, I think MSC makes. She calls it her Advent blanket or something. Basically, she's doing a 9 patch of the same color. So 9 squares, and then she has a white that borders it and kind of creates like strips in between the colors. And I thought, okay, that looked kind of fun. Because originally I was thinking more of a Battenberg style blanket. And I was just going to do like a white color, this color, a white. But then when I did 1 square with this color, I'm like, there's a lot left over. It was like 10 grams that I had in that ball. I was like, what am I going to do with the rest? The whole point of this Scrappy Advent is to use it up. I was like, so I decided to do more squares. And I did all of this in 1 day, which doesn't look like a whole lot. And it wasn't. But I was using a really small hook. I was using a 2.75. Anyway, long story short, this project got abandoned very quickly on Sunday because by the end of the day, my wrist was killing me from crocheting. So I was like, well, I can't do this for 24 days straight. I won't be able to do anything else. My arm and wrist were just hurting too bad, which makes me really sad. But that's just too much in 1 day. If I do my hexagons, I usually only do 1 hexie a day, and that's just enough to where if I did more than the 2, then my wrist would start hurting, but that's kind of the max, and that's perfectly okay. I decided to do a different project, which I will show you here in a second. So this was the day 1 color. This was day 2, which I have not added because this color is very similar to my joining color for my crochet flower blankets that I picked out. It's not exactly the same, but it's close enough that I'm going to use it for that. I'm going to use it in the finger weight one, and I'm just going to throw that in the bag. I've decided not to be too picky with those blankets as far as making sure the colors, the joining color is perfectly matching, because I have, mini skeins that are this color, that are a similar color, that I'm not going to use for anything else. So I just decided I'm just going to throw those in there, and who cares if it doesn't match? It's a blanket for my house, so if somebody doesn't like it, oh well. So I decided to go with a knit project, and this is going to look very similar to some of you, but here is what I have so far. So this is not the Jelly Roll blanket, but it is similar to the Jelly Roll blanket. This is I can't get the name right. I think it's Little Squares Knitted Blanket. I think that's the title of it. And how it is you have I did it here. I did a color here. The blanket starts with just this color, and then you do these alternating blocks of like a main color for like however many rounds you want it to be. For mine, I did 10 rows. You did rows. So I did 10 after I used up most of the mini. And then in between, you make these long strips, kind of like the Jelly Roll, but then you pick up stitches to go this way. So you'll be working rows this way, and you do a long strip of the main color. So basically in between every strip, there is a strip of white or cream or whatever the contrast color is that you're using. You join them that way. You seam those together. At least that's how the pattern has you do it. You seam them together from there, and then you do a top and a bottom strip of that contrast color as well for kind of a border. So I don't know. I think I'm going to continue with this project, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with it for Advent, because I just have other things I want to work on, if I'm being honest. I really just want to knit Christmas socks. That's just really calling my name. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. If I don't keep up with it every day, it's not a huge deal. I'll just put the yarn back in the bag and call it good. So for my contrast color, I'm just using this off-white color that I got. It's like a creamy white. It's called Snow. This is also Cascade Heritage. And I am using my signature straights for this, which are a 2.5. So these are just straights, 7-inch needles, and that's what I'm doing. And like I said, for my contrast rows, I just have to do 10 rows for those. And then just my blocks are, the pictures of the blanket online have all of the colored blocks all of the same length. I'm not going to do that because my Scrappy Advent, they were anywhere from 5 to 10 grams. So my plan is to just knit up the scrap into those strips, and my blocks will be kind of all over the place. The white block, the strip, the rows of 10, those will be consistently the same, but my colored blocks will be all different. So I think that will just make for more of a fun, funky look with a little bit of cohesion with the cream color in there. So that's my plan. I don't know how far I'll actually get on that because I actually have an idea for another blanket in mind, which is going to be like a super yarn busting project, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So my Hexi blanket, I wanted to update you on that because I laid them out and like on my bed to see kind of, okay, what would this look like with the flowers that I have now. So I just decided I'm going to join the ones that I already have made. So I have joined with one Hexi so far. So this is the color that I have for my joining color. This is Pop-Tart Crust from Kimber's Cozy Creations in a DK weight, so I don't have to hold it double. And I actually had to do this twice because I connected them incorrectly. And I know that because this bag that I made, I'm so glad that I got this fabric and kept one for myself for this project because it's actually going to show me how to join the Hexis together, because there you go. So so it's showing me how many I need and where to place them, because originally I was not thinking that they would go in that order. But my plan for this, I'm going to join the flowers that I have right now. I think that's going to be kind of my goal with this blanket over the month. I'm going to leave the fingering weight one alone for now and not work on it. I'm going to concentrate on this one and join these flowers together because I have, I don't know, maybe 11 50-gram cakes in this bag to put into this, to make flowers out of and put in this blanket. And I think once I do that, this blanket will be the size that I want. It'll be a good, like, throw size, lap size kind of a blanket, and that's really what I was looking for, and to use up some yarn. So this month I'm just going to concentrate on joining them together and see where that takes me, because now that I know you need a heck of a lot more joining hexagons than I originally thought. For some reason I was not thinking about the shape and how it would be put together and how you needed extras in between. That thought really didn't occur to me. So that in of itself will make this blanket even bigger than I thought. So I think with the amount of yarn I already have set aside in this bag for this blanket, it'll be a perfect size when it's done. It won't be done anytime soon because it takes me one week to make a flower if I'm making one petal a day. But yeah, I'm hoping next year that will be done. So that leads me into the 2025 plans that I wanted to talk about, because I've already started thinking about that. That's just how my brain works. I'm hoping to have this DK flower blanket done. That's definitely like in my mind, want to finish and have it completed. And then my other plan, my stash busting plan. I really enjoyed working from stash this year, even though I've had quite a few acquisitions, like a lot more than I had planned, of course. My plan next year is twofold. One, it'll be another stash busting year, but two, at least from January to May, and I'm going to make this statement here on camera, at least from January to May, I am doing a no buy for craft stuff, yarn included, because I'm getting a little overwhelmed with the amount that I have. And that's not to say if you have more than me, then you should be overwhelmed. Like, to each their own. We all feel differently and our spaces are different and just kind of what we have time for. But it's starting to overwhelm me. Just the sheer amount that I have, it's like I can't work through it fast enough that I'm bringing it in. So I've decided, okay, at least from January to the end of May, do a no buy for that, because then that can give me a good chance to just focus on the stuff that I have going, the stuff that I want to make, and see what kind of a dent, and then reevaluate from there, because it could turn into another couple of months. It could turn into a whole year. It could turn into, I don't know what. We'll see where the wind takes me for this. That should have been my intention this last year, but I didn't really want to put that restriction on myself. But now I feel like I need to focus on what I already have and just tell myself it's okay if someone has a yarn that you want. You already probably have something similar. That's the thing. A lot of the times, going through my stash and reorganizing, I have a lot of similar colors. You know, at least 2 of this one or that one or whatever, and they're very similar in composition and color. So I don't think that it will be an issue for me. I just have to tell myself no. So my stash busting project, like a really big one that I have in my mind is, so I'll just use this for an example. So I have this leftover from, this is in my flower bag. So I have this leftover from Yarnable. This is 50 grams. Actually, it's probably a little more than 50 grams. So I made myself socks with it. Love them. Wear them all the time, by the way. But what I'm going to do is I have, I don't know, maybe 25 skeins of caked up yarn on my wall of sock yarn that I know I want to make socks with. Most of them for myself because they're colors that I love. So what I'm going to do is, instead of waiting like to pull it, make the socks, and have the leftover, my plan is to just little by little take one of those cakes of yarn off the wall. Just start with one, probably from the Yarnable stash, and because that's what I have the most of out of a brand. And I'm going to do, I have a pattern for a chevron, a garter stitch chevron blanket that you can adjust the size on. And I thought, what a perfect pattern to use up 50 grams. And I will just use up 50 from that ball of yarn, from that 100 grams, and then keep the 50 aside for my socks, for when I get around to them. And that to me is a pattern where I could make multiples of those. If I got to a point where, okay, I've used up this amount of yarn, the blanket's big enough, it's long enough, then I can just bind it off. It's garter stitch with just, you know, your increases and decreases. And there's a ton out there. You can look online. A lot of them have you knit one side, purl the other. I am not purling 200 plus stitches in a row. So garter stitch it is. And I like the way that it looks. And you can change how your chevrons are, how wide they are. There's a lot of different options. So just look on Ravelry or Google or YouTube or whatever. You can find tons of patterns for free for that if you're interested. But that to me is like just enough interest. Like a plain garter stitch blanket I would probably lose interest on that really quickly with that many stitches. But the chevron pattern will give just enough of something that it'll be nice to come together. And there's an end goal with each color. You know what I mean? Like, use half, you know, kind of weigh it as I go along. Use up half, put that aside, put in another color, however I want to do it. So that's what I'm thinking for next year. My next year kind of goals that I'm thinking about, like, for the whole year, is to work on that garter stitch blanket, get it cast on, and kind of work on it, because I feel like that would really bust through a lot of my stash. And the dishcloths. I did talk about that the last couple of episodes. I have all this Knit Picks Dishy, and my goal is to make those, whether I make the knit version or the crochet version. I might do half and half. I don't know. I might do some knit. I might do some Tunisian crochet. We'll see. But my goal is to use up all of that cotton yarn next year. And then obviously in there, make socks because I love them and whatever else might come up. So I think that that is a lot for the last 2 weeks, but I just wanted to share those thoughts with you guys. So maybe some of you can relate if you're feeling overwhelmed too, and maybe it's just the time of year. You know, maybe if you're feeling overwhelmed, just know that you're not alone in feeling that way if your stash has overwhelmed you. If you want to kind of informally join me, I'm not really going to do any make-alongs next year. But yeah, if you want to informally, join me and kind of have, you can tag me in your pictures on Instagram or anything, and just kind of an informal make-along where we just kind of cheer each other on and continue to use up your stash. And for me, it's a no-buy for at least the first 6 months of the year, or 5 months of the year. And I say till May, if anybody knows. Why? You probably already guessed, because summer sock camp usually starts at the end of May, and I could possibly be tempted to buy yarn depending on like the logo and what comes out, what people come up with. We'll see. I did buy a lot last year from a few different makers that I didn't get to use. I got to use some of them, but I didn't get to use quite a few of them because I was busy making bags and trying to be ahead, and before I made the decision to close my shop. So I'm hoping to work through some of those this year because I really did love them, and I think they will make cool, fun, funky socks, and I'm excited about that when that time comes. Anyway, I've been blabbering on for way too long today. So thank you guys so much for watching. That's going to be it for me today. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you aren't subscribed to my channel already, hit the subscribe button. We actually do have quite a few new subscribers, so thank you all for subscribing over the last couple of weeks. I am doing a short little Vlogmas every single day this month, just showing my Advent opening. That's kind of really all I'm doing for that. I'm not doing anything super in-depth. But if you want to see that, I have 2 videos posted already, and I will continue to post just a short, like 2-minute video every day for that. So yeah, subscribe if you want to see those or more videos like this. And until next time, guys, thanks so much for watching. Bye!